Let's head back to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
All right, let's quit making excuses for Schwartz, Stefanski, and Andrew Berry. They all need to go. Special teams have been atrocious. They don't improve week to week. They get worse. Defense has gotten worse. I don't care about injuries. Schwartz's system was completely disclosed as a very simple defensive scheme. Quit making excuses for Stefanski. He's got to go. His game management and decision-making and play calling is embarrassing. Everybody knows what they're going to do, but enough excuses. Other teams can turn it around from worst to first. Why can't we? The fans deserve better. This is a freaking joke.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Sam, that'll give you an idea of where Browns fans are with the regime right now.
Yeah, and look, that's where you end up when you don't win a lot of games. But I think you have to ask yourself, look, process versus results, and if you put a good quarterback on this team tomorrow, what would it look like? Or if you fixed a couple of things, what would it look like? This defense, there's some truth to the idea that it is a more simplistic defense than others. For example, Brian Flores in Minnesota is doing wildly more creative things than Jim Schwartz is doing right now with this Cleveland defense. But you could argue that the defenses are comparable in terms of production or in terms of ability or overall level. This has been a pretty high-level defense for 2 out of the last 3 years. I don't know that you necessarily say just because it had a bad game or because it is easy to diagnose and to identify, then you go in a different direction. We already talked about Stefanski. Andrew Berry, I think overall, it's a weird one because I think you can say in terms of like the percentage of moves that he's made, most of them have been pretty good. Even this most recent draft class, like so many of these rookies look fantastic. Like that is a good draft class overall from the looks of it. The problem is you don't have a quarterback right now. And the biggest move that he's ever made, the Deshaun Watson trade, has been arguably the worst move in the history of the NFL. So, and we don't know how much of that was him versus an ownership-driven decision. So, again, it's difficult looking at this and saying it's a bad team right now, therefore we got to clean house, we got to get rid of everybody. Because I think you can say, look, the defense is good generally, and 2 out of the last 3 years it's been very good. Stefanski has a proven track record of being a very good head coach, and we know he doesn't have a good offensive line right now. He doesn't have a good receiving core right now, and his quarterback is a fifth-round rookie. And then Andrew Berry, again, most of his decisions have been good, and the one that was by far the worst he's ever made might have been driven from above as well. So, again, I come back to this idea of if this was the game plan going into the season, look, we're going to cycle through 3 quarterbacks, none of whom are particularly likely to be the guy long-term because he's either very old or he's, a day 2 or day 3 rookie. Just the strike rate of those guys is not good. So we're just going to get through this year. It's going to suck. We're going to suck. But next year, we're going to go draft a quarterback at the top of the draft, and we can put it together in that offseason. If that was the game plan, I think you have to let them at least attempt to do that this offseason. If that wasn't the game plan, then I think you have a much more reasonable case to start firing people.